Hi, today we're just going to take a moment to talk about peak methodology. My name is Matt Thompson. I'm Vice President of Professional Services here at the EstesGroup and also the author of Peak Methodology. So what is it and what does it mean to you as an organization, and why is it important to understand your implementation partner's methodology and how they like to go about implementing an Epicor product? The importance of that is just very simple. A lot of businesses want to be able to get right down to it, and we find very, very frequently that the number one complaint is it just takes too dang long to start getting to things that actually are relevant to the business, and that it stops the momentum, it inhibits the learning curve, and all of those types of things. So how do you do that while still having the successful foundation laid up front within the project? Well, we do it very, very simply in the fact that we have the prepare and educate stages, but those are extremely accelerated. So the idea behind that is during that prepare stage, we want to go the extra mile during the sales process and really learn and understand your business. So at the end of that, not only do you walk away with the typical statement of work, but we're also able to give you that scope document. In fact, we call it a project initiation document in our world, that contains the scope, the timeline, the milestones, who are the players on both sides of the coin. So the EstesGroup team as well as your team, it's going to be required to do the implementation from an internal perspective, the amount of time required on everybody, so that we can walk away with that right up front as you sign the paperwork. So what that does is it eliminates that cycle once we sign to being able to get right into the education stage of things, where we look at and tailor your education program directly to you. So very, very quickly, we're working into the system. And as we go through our education stage, we're not just running through the stuff that's in the book. We're going to use and pull samples. We're going to talk with the team and put it up on the whiteboard of what the concepts are. And we're going to take that through and use the education stage as a bit of a proof of concept. Once we have that taken care of, and that typically is going to coincide with your hardware and software installation happening somewhere in there, that's then the key stop point before we can go into architect. The concept of architect is just what you see here in front of you. It's just a washing cycle to where we know that you have a configuration and a business process that lays underneath that needs to be designed in your Epicor application to be a performed and accepted solution with the expected results and everything else that you want to be able to get. That includes any customization or critical reports or dashboards or any of those types of things that deliver information that the business needs to be able to then utilize and make decisions that are key impacting decisions on the business. Once we have that accepted solution, it just pumps out into an end user procedure and is ready for validation. If it's not an accepted solution, then it needs to come back through that cycle again. And we're either going to tweak the configuration or we're going to modify the business process. So if the configurations change, that's where we could have a customization involved. We could have an alternate path of flowing through the system. We can use BPMs to automate routines or Service Connect to automate or integrate other applications. All those types of things come into play in that configuration chunk of the circle. And once we have that, then we make that flow through again and we look and test for an accepted solution. Once we have that and we have all of our end user procedures documented for the best practices for your organization, we then validate that and we take that through a full mock go live. So it's not just running through a conference room pilot with just some built data that was there in a vacuum. We actually take a look at a week's worth of work from your legacy system and we pull those transactions forward and we build that up to where there's starting transactions, midstream transactions, and tail end transactions, so that you have to actually test as if it was a go live date, but just with a much smaller sample set of information, but it's still real world information. Once we validate that in a conference room where we have a little bit more control, we then take that same scenario and we run that through acceptance testing, and that's where you also incorporate your stress test against your IT systems to make sure that MES shop floor terminals are working. If I receive a product and I want a label to print out, all that stuff automatically happens. All my printers are functioning, my barcode readers, everything else are doing what they need to do. And then we're ready to make that final cutover and go live. And that's why we call it stabilize instead of a major event. If you've done your work leading up to that point, then it truly is a non-event. And the group is able to just take that information. They make the switch over to the new system. It feels very natural at that point in time. We're there to support you in that go live event, as well as at the month end, first month close, because that's where a lot of stuff starts to shake out on where the process is good and stable or not, and which we shouldn't have any surprises, and we very, very rarely do. So once we hit that stabilized chain of events, then we're starting to look at, okay, now as we settle into this system, let's go back and take a look at what are the next steps for the organization to do continuous improvement. Are there additional non-value adds? Are there phase 2 initiatives that we know we need to tackle and get accomplished here? So we look at that and we start ramping up for any of those next level initiatives. On top of that, what we do is we utilize that statement of work that we talked about back in the prepare stage. That's our guiding light principle, the North Star. And we want to use that all the way through the peak methodology to make sure that does the concept that we're working on support what the critical success factors have been identified by the business? If the answer is no, then we have to make that decision. Is that going to make an impact on our scope and our statement of work as far as time, budget, and activities that we need to be able to do? So there's a lot of decisions there that need to go up to the steering committee if they creep up into the project. And then as well, because EstesGroup is a certified partner of Epicor, and 10 years of existence of the EstesGroup itself, we have a lot of examples of best practices, and through our implementations, and then as well access to everything from Epicor, including their people, their examples, their case studies, everything else that occurs. We're able to bring you not only that best of breed solution, but a merged best of breed between Epicor and the EstesGroup. So it gives you an additional level of expertise to being able to make sure you have success in your project. If you have any further questions, just click on the little button below. You'll actually see where you can ask us a question on your implementation. Or at the very top, you'll see Ask an Expert. And I happen to be the guy behind that button. So feel free. You'll reach out. You'll hear a friendly voice. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much and have a great day.